In this video, I want to discuss the key differences between a topic and a thesis. Now, you'll be asked to find both. And to start off a research project, it's good to have a general topic to work with. And then as you learn more about this topic, you get more ideas and more insight about more specific ways to approach it. And you can develop subtopics and even sub-subtopics. And it's good to focus on a research work that has 2 or 3 months to it before it needs to be turned in, something like that. Here we have 8 weeks. So you really need to focus on a specific topic, one that's not too broad by any means. But anyway, what I want to do here is give you some key characteristics between the topics and the thesis so that you can be able to recognize what you're dealing with. A topic is not going to be a declarative sentence. It's not going to say anything about it. If you want to think of it in terms of parts of speech, topic is just a noun, okay? So here, what you have right here are theses sentences. Gun control is unconstitutional. The United States is a republic, not a democracy. Wooden park benches are better than iron ones. Notice that for each one of these, you have a declarative sentence. It's a proposition. Those things are the same. And that these sentences can be, in theory, either true or false. You understand that you might not know just yet, but given enough information, you will be able to determine whether, let's say, this one or this one is true or false. Okay? Now, when you look at topics, you will not be able to tell whether the topic is true or false. So, the topics are different from claims or theses. Now, the topic would be gun control. This would be the thesis about gun control. So, imagine if I were to come to you and say, gun control, true or false? You wouldn't be able to tell me the answer to that question because you would be saying, well, tell me something about gun control. First, let me see what you're going to say about it. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you know that a topic is not going to give you that sort of information. It's just the noun about which you're doing research. So the topic can never be a thesis. The claim that you make within the topic, this claim is more specific and it can be true or false, and that's a thesis. Okay, so if the claim is the United States is a republic, not a democracy, notice here I'm kind of using claim as the same as thesis. Then the thesis might be the political nature of the United States. See that right here? So if the claim is the wooden park benches are better than iron ones, the thesis would be park benches, or wooden benches, or iron benches. Well, more specifically, park benches. All right? I mean, more generally, park benches. So just remember that the topic is really the person, thing, or idea you are researching. And no, it could be more specific than that, but it's really going to be just something that you're researching. The thesis is the fact that you're trying to prove, or the claim you are trying to support about that something. All right. So let's take a closer look at theses, and I have some information down here for this. A thesis is the conclusion of an argumentative research paper. It can be referred to as the thesis, the conclusion, the main idea, the major claim, or the point of the paper. I personally would probably never use conclusion, simply because that tends to mean the wrap. Well, see, if I were to use conclusion, I'm going to make it mean thesis, okay? But often as a teacher of writing, or writing teachers, they like to talk about conclusions as the thing that ends your paper. I'll call that the wrap-up or the end. When I say conclusion, I mean thesis. What's your thesis? What's your big point, okay? So a thesis statement is a declarative sentence. It has a truth value, okay? So it's not a question, right? A thesis is not a question. Now, you might have some important questions you're trying to answer, and these can be guiding questions to your research, or guiding questions to your writing. But the thesis is your answer to those questions. All right. Now, notice also that a thesis is not going to be a topic. The wording of gun control laws. Now, this is a topic. This down here is your thesis. The wording of gun control laws is left intentionally vague to allow open interpretation. Now, this might be a guiding question up here. Your thesis for this would be, women are consistently less accusative in their speech when they confront their professional superiors than are men. All right, so a thesis is going to try to make a point. It's going to be true or false. It's going to be specific. And it's not going to be a topic or a command or a question. All right. Now here's another important part. So a characteristic of a research-worthy thesis. First, it's not going to be obvious. Now, I know here it says controversial and all that, but what I mean is, think of it this way. The average American likes to watch movies. Hey, is that a declarative sentence? Yes. In theory, is that true or false? Can you get numbers to support this? Can you support it by logic or definition or experiment? Yes. Is that a thesis? Well, yes. It's a proposition that can be true or false. Is it research worthy? No, not really, because most people are going to grant you that to begin with. A good thesis is going to be one that's a little bit surprising, and it's certainly not obvious. And so if you were to ask it to a room of 100 people, not ask, but if you were to present it to a room of 100 people, a well-read, average intelligent, maybe a slightly above average intelligence, adults in America, if 95% of them raise their hand, to your thesis at the beginning, you really don't have one that's research worthy. You need to have a thesis in which people say, really? What do you mean? How do you get that? Why do you believe that? Tell me your reasons. Give me your data. I'm not convinced yet. I need you to convince me, okay? So any sort of thesis that you can imagine someone saying, well, wait a minute now, I need you to convince me on this. I don't see it. I'm not really convinced of it right now. That's a pretty good thesis, all right? Now, the last thing I want to stress is, please make sure that you're not overly broad with your thesis, okay? Hate speech is alive and well in the United States. Okay, that's a thesis. But how much material is this going to involve? How long will this take to support? This is something for a 50-page paper, perhaps, if you're really going to stress it across the United States. How about this one? Great orators of this last century are primarily responsible for the recent social advantages of civil rights. Oh my goodness, again, you are making a specific claim. People aren't going to, this is not obvious right off the bat. The connection between great orators and social change from the last century. You're going to have to draw a lot of connections. You're going to have to look at quite a few great orators. This is just way too broad, okay? So be sure that as you do your research work and think about your topic, you eventually come to a claim that you would like to support that is manageable, specific enough to do in a class like this.